Smaulgld.
Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is Monday evening, the 14th of January, 2019. Tonight's topic: what does the $10 billion gold mining merger between Newmont Mining and Goldcorp mean for gold? We're going to cover that. We're also going to take a look at what's going on with China as it impacts the United States, the upcoming Bill Barr Attorney General confirmation hearings, which start, I believe, tomorrow. We're also going to have a new look at this manufactured crisis, a new way of looking at it. And then we're going to do a little Moronica, and then we'll finally hit our topic of the evening, and then we're going to do a little Patreon pitch for Smaulgld towards the end. So let's first take a look now at the gold and silver markets, how they turned out today. And it looks like today was not a good day really for gold or silver, but it wasn't a bad day. Let's take a look at the prices. We see that the gold price managed to go higher during the day, but then wasn't able to hold on to its gains, but it held on to a little bit of them. The gold price was up about $3 or $4 to $1291.72, up about 0.32%. It had been up relatively moderately. It had gotten as high as $1295.75, but fell down and then somewhat regained itself. But not a big day, not a bad day. But remember, the equity markets were down. The silver price pretty much followed the similar pattern. Silver price was up a nickel today to about $15.63. It's about where both gold and silver are today, where they essentially closed earlier in the day, now in aftermarkets trading. And the gold and silver prices were both up marginally today. So that meant that the unsustainable gold-silver ratio pretty much didn't change at all. At one point, when gold had risen significantly and silver had not, the gold-silver ratio climbed all the way to 83.25 to 1. It ended slightly up on the day, still well above the natural ratio of 16 to 1 or 9 to 1, or the silver is rarer than gold ratio of 1 to 1. Now, over in the equity markets, not that much in the way of movement. The Dow Jones had been down a lot more during the day, but I think the Trump pump and the Powell put moved the markets back up. They had been down to about 23,780, and they closed at 23,909. So there was pretty much a 200-point move back up. And the Dow Jones closed down only 86 points, down 0.36%. NASDAQ got hit a little harder, down 0.94% to 69.05. And the S&P 500 down about 0.5%, down to 25.82. So markets down a bit today, but pretty much a non-event in the markets, both for gold, silver, and the equity markets. Now over in the crypto markets, different story. Bit of a rebound in the cryptos. Bitcoin up to $3,664, up 4.37%. Bcash to 132, up 6.31%. Ethereum having a big day to 129, that's up 11%. And Litecoin at $32.08, up 7.22%. Let's take a look at what's happening in China. There's some interesting stories here. We mentioned this the other day. Chinese economy appears to be slowing down. Chinese vehicle sales fell for the first time in 28 years. We've mentioned that China is undergoing a new round of stimulus, new round of infrastructure. They're just changing the tenor of the infrastructure, trying to keep the economic growth going. But here's an interesting story that came out today about, well, the surplus with the United States. Now, you would think that with the tariffs, that the surplus would be narrowing, and after all, the purpose of the tariffs is to even the trade imbalance, which Trump has been saying China has been ripping us off for 20 years, that you would think that the tariffs would start to narrow that gap. Well, it turns out so far not to be the case. reported today that China's trade surplus for 2018 rose 351 billion from a year ago. So that surplus is still there, the highest ever recorded. Now, some reasons for that. A lot of people are thinking egg on the face of Trump. Not necessarily. Let's take a look here. Two reasons that I say for this. One, import companies in the United States probably raised the amounts that they were going to import in anticipation of these tariffs being placed, even if their products were not on the list. Certainly, those companies that import products that they knew were going to be on the list or were on the list made sure they imported their stuff beforehand, and I'm sure other companies imported non-perishable goods that they could stockpile in case their products ended up on the import tariff list. Also, we know that China continued to export because we've heard that they've subsidized and given tax breaks to tariff-imported exporters so they can continue to hit their export quotas. So it's not necessarily, it's somewhat front-loaded. Now we'll see. If next year there's been no movement, then something we've got to look at some other reasons. But I suspect that companies were stockpiling Chinese imported goods in anticipation of real tariffs coming their way, or perhaps worried that their products might be on the tariff hit list. But here's something that gives credibility to that theory. Just after I wrote that, I see yuan talks. Chinese imports up only 0.2% year over year in December. But then it said exports were down 3.1% versus up 7.8%. What does that tell you? It tells you that exports to the U.S. were up because, in my theory, the American producers were importing extra. But for the rest of the world, they weren't importing as much from China. So Chinese exports overall, including giving effect to higher American exports, were down. So I think that this is probably what's happening. But again, that's my theory. It might not be correct, but I will follow up on it. But I can piece together that argument based on that data, willing to see what happens. Now, also, Chinese foreign investment in the U.S. and Europe falls 73%. So it seems that trade between China, Europe, and the United States, either through tariffs or for other reasons, is certainly on the decline. So it looks like China is also trying their Belt and Road stuff in other countries, and many of those countries are pushing back on taking Chinese debt deals to build railroads and other infrastructure projects because they're concerned about getting stuck on the hook for infrastructure projects that may not end up paying for themselves. In other news, China rejected Visa and MasterCard. Central bank delays market entry for Visa and MasterCard, which means that China does not have access to cryptocurrencies or Visa or MasterCard. Let's move on now to this Bill Barr story briefly. Bill Barr is Donald Trump's selection to be Attorney General to replace Jeff Sessions. Now, there's an interim Attorney General in place now. He will be going, and then the issue becomes what happens to Bill Barr. Does he try to recuse himself from the Mueller investigation? Does Rod Rosenstein, whatever his name is, stay on? I'll probably do a longer YouTube just on this, but just briefly, the facts are Bill Barr used to be Herbert Walker Bush's Attorney General. He is going for confirmation with Trump to be his Attorney General. It's an odd pick for Trump because apparently Barr is buddies with Bob Mueller, which should be a disqualifying event in Trump's point of view. But also, Bill Barr wrote a memo explaining why the president can't be held for obstruction of justice. And he sent it to Rod Rosenstein, sua sponte, just on his own. Sure to get questions about that. Also, he was in the Knights of Columbus, which is a bad thing, supposedly, and Kamala Harris will probably harass him for that, and Jamie Orono from Hawaii. They'll probably give him a good grilling. I expect he'll get confirmed, given the fact that he's been confirmed before, and given the fact that the Republicans have 53 to 47 vote there. But the thing about what's also going to be interesting is how he handles the Mueller investigation. Now, he's made a public statement that he thinks it's in the best interest of everyone to complete the investigation, and that makes sense now, given that supposedly it's winding down. I think at this point it would look odd if it was shut down. It probably, if it was going to be shut down, should have been shut down or never even started, and given reasons why that this investigation should have been a counterintelligence probe and not some type of direct investigation into Trump directly. However, we learned the other day in a New York Times article that Trump actually was the direct target of an investigation, or so they say, when back in April or May of 2017, right after he fired Comey. Now, supposedly Trump was never the target of the investigation. They claim now that the FBI became alarmed that Donald Trump fired Comey, and therefore he may indeed be some type of Russian stooge. And they cited that he did not criticize Putin or Russia when he was campaigning, that he had praised Putin, and that the Republican Party platform at the convention, after Trump was nominated, or during the period of time when they knew he'd be nominated, took out some language about arming the Ukrainian rebels against the Russians and changed it to something like providing them resources. Now, the problem with that is none of those things are of any concern or business of the FBI to the point where they would raise, based on policy issues, an investigation into Trump. This all seems to be a very clever way of making it seem like they were acting in the best interest of the country. However, that is clearly not the business of the FBI to say, something seems a little fishy here. He likes Russia a little bit, and why did the Republican Party? They're not supposed to be looking at the Republican Party platform. If they had compared it to the Democratic Party platform, they would have seen that the Democratic Party platform didn't contain any type of language that would be contra to Russia. So they didn't open up and invest, nor should they, into Hillary Clinton or the Democratic Party as a result of that. So that's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out, because it doesn't seem like there was a predicate crime to begin with, and it'll all get very interesting once the report comes out, and then how it'll be handled via Bill Barr, if he does indeed get confirmed, whether he will make the findings public, what Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, is still there, what his role will be in that, and whether there will be any type of counter probe as to how the Comey investigation went into the Hillary email investigation and how that was handled, and then how they actually came up with, in the first place, the idea that there should be some type of investigation into Trump and supposed Russian collusion. That's all on deck. First, we got to get through the confirmation hearings. That's going to be the interesting point, and we'll see what's on the mind of the Democrats as to how they want to approach or attack Bill Barr, if at all. Probably they will attack him just for being an old white guy. That'll come up, and belonging to the Knights of Columbus. But the real issue is whether they will try to make an issue out of whether he should even be the Attorney General, and if he is, whether he should recuse himself, because he's already written a memo to Rod Rosenstein giving his point of view about the investigation. All right, now about this manufactured crisis. I've been hearing this, and it's disturbing me because it's actually a rhetorical device that is disingenuous, but is very, very effective. And I've got an analogy to explain why it's effective, but why it's complete rubbish. So what Donald Trump has done is he has said he wants in the budget money for the wall. Now, he's allowed other budgets to go through the past couple of years and has not made a deal on the wall. He campaigned on having a wall. He laid out his case for having a wall, and he hasn't achieved it. And to his mind, he's achieved other things. He's done the tax reform, and I guess it's difficult to do both at the same time. But for whatever the reason, he has not stood firm on the wall, and he also realizes that Paul Ryan was not a ally in getting the wall done. He also had certain senators like McCain, Corker, Flake, and others that were obstruction. You know, people like to say that, well, he had the Republicans. Well, he didn't really. There's a lot of never-Trumpers as Republicans. But my point is going to be that all that is irrelevant. He campaigned on the wall, and he gave his reasons for having a wall. In his mind, there is a crisis at the border. It's porous. People come in, they bring drugs. I think I caught that in time. Yeah, I caught it again. I caught that one quickly. Okay, I know exactly where I got cut off. Womp, womp. All right. Now, he caught it. He gave his reasons for wanting to have the wall. Now, he didn't get it done in his first couple of years. And now he's saying that he wants to have the wall and he's standing firm. He's doing it at an inopportune time because he does not have control of both houses. Okay. Now, what the Democrats are saying is this is a manufactured crisis. And then they ask the rhetorical question, why didn't he do something the past 2 years? Well, I've already explained why the past couple of years he didn't do anything, because he didn't necessarily even have the Republican support. But that's a red herring question. It's a very clever way of saying, this is a manufactured crisis. Why didn't you do it beforehand? And that avoids the issue of whether there is indeed a crisis. What you're doing when you ask a question like that and stating that it's manufactured is that since you didn't do it before, the implication is that it isn't a crisis. Well, that may be an implication, but that does not necessarily square with the actual reality of what the factual circumstances may be. And so you're forced, if you're asked that question, to be on the defensive and try to explain why you didn't do it. And then if you can't explain to the satisfaction of the person who's asking the question, well, it must mean then there isn't a crisis. But I'll give you a way of responding to that. Let's say there is an alcoholic who's got a serious, serious drinking problem. He's had it for years, and he's always said, I am going to stop drinking. It's a health crisis. Okay? His family has said, this is a problem, Joe. Joe, you got to knock off the drinking. Or Seamus, you better knock off the drinking. And he says, I know. And they offer to put him into rehab. And he's like, nah, I can't. I'm busy. Got to have another beer, whatever. And he doesn't go to rehab. And it's a crisis. It's a health crisis. And as time goes on, he's not drinking any less. He still has a drinking problem. And maybe it's even stronger. So during the Christmas season, he says, this is a problem. This is a crisis. I am going to stop drinking and I'm going to rehab. And his family says, no, you're not. We're going on vacation. He says, no, I got to stop drinking. I'm not going on vacation. They say, yeah, but it's New Year's Eve. We're all going to be in Puerto Rico. We want to see we want to have a big party. We want to drink. We want to see you in the new year there. And he says, no, I'm not going to Puerto Rico. Because if I go there, I'm going to drink. So I am going to stop drinking. This is a health crisis. And his family says to him, what do you mean a health crisis? You didn't want to stop drinking 2 years ago. We offered to send you to rehab and pay for it 2 years ago, and you wouldn't go. In fact, 3 weeks ago, you went on a bender. Now, you get where I'm going with this. The Democrats were always in favor of border security. But now, they're not. Why? Because they want to go on vacation. They don't want to have to deal with this anymore. And when the guy who actually has the crisis, and he admits there's a health crisis, he's a drunkard, and he has to give up the alcohol, they realize, but right now they're a little perturbed with him. They don't like the fact that he's going to interfere with their holiday, and now is not the time for a crisis, because, hey, if there was a crisis, you would have stopped drinking 2 years ago. You would have stopped drinking last year when we offered to take you to the rehab, and now you're telling us, and at the time you told us, well, it's not that important. I'll give up drinking next year. And now they're saying, look, it's not a crisis. So the issue really is there a crisis at the border or is there not? If there is, then it has to be dealt with. If there isn't, it's not a valid argument to say, why are you bringing it up now? Well, the answer is because I didn't deal with it earlier. And even if that indicates a fault, like you should have stopped drinking last year. Okay. Does that mean that he shouldn't stop drinking now? That his only opportunity to stop drinking to avert a health crisis was last year when you wanted to take him to rehab, or 2 years ago when it became obvious that he was a total drunkard. So I think it's something that people need to think about. It's one of those rhetorical devices that gets repeated, manufactured crisis. The issue is whether there's a crisis or not. You don't answer that question by saying, it didn't get taken care of last year or 2 years ago when it could have. And since it wasn't taken care of, you didn't fix the roof leaking 2 years ago. You didn't fix it last year. So why should you fix it now? It wasn't a crisis. It was dripping then. It's still dripping. Why bother? All right. Let's see. What else do we got? I think we're into Moronica now. And then we're going to get into, yes, we're into Moronica. Now, this one is interesting. I don't know what I should show you first. Yeah, I'm going to show you this first. Now, if you remember, around New Year's Eve, and I covered this story, Elizabeth Warren, hold my beer, I'm running for president. And everyone mocked her for drinking a beer and trying to act like she was some type of common person, whether she is Native American or not. But she then... Oh, let me play this for you because Trump actually tweeted out something almost verbatim to what I said in this video on the 3rd. And he tweeted this out, I think yesterday or today. But listen to what I say and then read what he puts in his tweet. Here we go. Let's have a quick listen to the home life of Dizzy Miss Lizzie.
Hold on a sec. I'm going to get me a beer.
Oh, please do. Well, she's going to get herself a beer now.
Is now in here. You want a beer?
Do you want a beer now? Well, Jesus, I want a beer. What the heck do you think I'm standing here for? No, Trump didn't say that. Hold on. You'll see what he said. Hold on. You think I'm here for the beer? Oh, yes, of course I am. Well, that's Elizabeth Warren trying to appear like she is a common folk. And then she introduces her husband. She says, I'm so glad you're here. Where else is he supposed to be? He lives there. Okay. Here's what Trump says. 123,000 likes today. Best line in the Elizabeth Warren beer catastrophe is to her husband. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here. It's their house. He's supposed to be there. Well, that's what I said a week and a half ago. I don't think Trump listens to Smaulgld, but the same thing occurred to him as occurred to me. Okay, I think we're ready now to move on to our topic of the evening. I should have played this first, but I'll play it now. Uh-oh. We got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent,
Smaulgld. This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
All right, let's talk gold merger. Now, back in September or October last year, it was announced that Barrick's, the number one, or Barrick it's called, the number one gold mining country or company in the world, was going to merge with Rand Gold, which is, in the top 20. It's not the biggest, but pretty big merger. Merger was valued at $5.4 billion, and it indicated perhaps that the mining industry needs to consolidate because the profits are not that high at some of these companies. Some of them aren't even making money. They've got low-ish all-in sustaining mining costs, but even so, mining is a very, very expensive, labor-intensive business. You've got accounting issues. You're dealing in jurisdictions all over the world. You've got language issues, environmental issues, in every jurisdiction. You've got permits you have to acquire and maintain. You've got labor issues, labor law in all the different countries. You have different taxes. You've got Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. You've got security issues in some of these places. It is an administrative, forget even the geological stuff that you got to stay on top of. And you have to do your research, and you have to figure out exactly what your reserves might be and how much it's going to cost to get at them. That in itself is like landing someone on the moon. It takes a lot of it, very expensive to have geologists and to run all those tests. And then you've got the administrative costs are very high. And this isn't like managing a Frankfurter stand or a taco stand. This is it's not even like managing a Starbucks internationally, because you're really dealing with a lot of different environmental and tax and legal issues. It's a very difficult business to run. And that's why it's difficult for them to make money. That's why a lot of investors invest in streaming companies, because the only thing about a streaming company is they just, whatever these companies, mining companies, manage to get out of the ground, the streaming company just pays a certain amount of money as finance, and then they get their gold or silver, whatever metals they agree to stream, at a much lower price than it costs the mine to take it out of the ground. And they have no administrative costs. They just have to have a bunch of number crunchers figuring out how many good deals they can have. But that's a side story. The idea is that these large mining companies, normally when you are, in the top 2 or 3 companies in a given industry, you're raking it in hand over fist. I mentioned Starbucks. You could just go down the line. If you're number 1 or 2 in an industry, you're kind of making a lot of money. Well, these companies, they may make decent revenues, but they're not really making a lot of money. Some of that has to do with the gold price, but a lot of it has to do with just all the things I mentioned. Very cost and labor intensive type of company to run. And that's actually very intellectually draining, because you can't be a buffoon and run this type of company. You really have to understand how each mine operates and all the different factors that go into making that particular mine operate profitably. And these companies have mines in South America, North America, Africa, all over the world. And they have to have qualified people in all these areas. They have to have all their safety stuff buttoned down. They have to know what they're doing. There's a lot of times I look at the world and I say, yeah, I can go do that. I could go do that. Like, I could go run Starbucks. I don't think I'd have a problem running that. But I don't think I can run a mining company. No way. I think it would just be overwhelming to try to... Eventually I could. But what I'm saying is, these guys have to know what they're doing. Now, apparently, some of them don't. And I can't blame them for not understanding all this. This is a very, very hard business. So in any event, a merger also complicates things, because I'm sure Barrick is still trying to figure out how Rand Gold operates, and Rand Gold probably accounts for things differently, has mines and jurisdictions that Rand Gold wasn't in before. They have to integrate their human resources. They have to integrate their accounting. It's a nightmare for them, and yet they figure it's worthwhile doing. Well, that merger was a bit of a shocker, but this one's an even bigger one. The one that came out today is Newmont to buy Goldcorp. I pulled together some data from the 2 companies' public filings, and here's what we got. You're merging the 2nd largest gold mining company, Newmont, the first is Barrick, with the 4th largest. Now, this will create the world's largest gold mining company. Newmont, it may even be the number 1 by itself. It depends on how 2018 comes out. It may be that Barrick fell to a point where Newmont might have passed it when Newmont reports its final 4th quarter results. But in any event, let's say they're 2nd or 1st. But if you look at the numbers, Newmont does about $5-6 billion a year in revenue. They pull out of the ground in the 3rd quarter 1.4 million ounces. They did about the same in 2017 in the 3rd quarter. And that's about 43, 44 tons. It's a lot of gold. And they think that in a given year, they might pull out about 200 tons. And they think that the combined entity is going to do about 7.9 million ounces, or about 245 tons. That's a lot. 245 tons between the two of them. But if you look at the cost per ounce, these two guys, Newmont and Goldcorp, are on the high end of cost per ounce. Now, this is the all-in sustaining cost per ounce. People can debate over whether that's the best way of analyzing it, but it does take into account things like your administrative costs, and it may be that when you merge, you can eliminate some of the double counting of all those admin costs I was talking about, your legal, your accounting, your environmental, your permitting, all of your buttoning down of everything, your managers. You might be able to save some money on that, and that would drive your cost per ounce down. And that's probably the reason why the two of them are looking at each other. They got similar cost per ounces. Those are on the high end. You're close to $1,000 an ounce. It doesn't leave you much room for profit. Goldcorp is a bit smaller. They did about 503,000 ounces in all, 2.29 million ounces in all of 2018, so about 80 tons. Now, the two companies claim that, and this is very important, you understand they want to bring together their resources and get what you call in mergers as synergies, meaning that if instead of having 10 employees make $1 million and the other company has 5 employees making $500,000, you might be able to make $1.5 million on 12 employees instead of 15 employees. That's a synergy thing. The two companies together can make this, or they might even be able to make more money, more revenue. The idea is that you bring the two companies together, and 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, it equals 5, only in corporate speak merger talk that you have a synergy. But there is some credibility to that, and that's why most mergers are designed to be, quote, synergistic. But in my experience as an M&A lawyer over time, and also through studies, I've learned that most mergers don't turn out to be a really good deal. It's either because they haven't properly or have no way of analyzing the relative strengths of the two parties, and generally, in my experience, when people get merger fever, they do a deal no matter what. And they just want to get a merger done. Their bonuses are based on mergers. The banking fees are based on mergers. Everyone has an interest once two parties are hooked up or looking at each other to make the deal happen. And if the deal doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. They can claim, we try our best. But I'm not saying that the merger will fail. What I'm saying is in mining, it's got to be even more difficult to have a merger actually work out, because you're dealing with very, very complicated business. I can't overstate that, because if it was just a matter of you're selling X number of widgets and all you have to do, I'm not trying to simplify it, but if you're selling coffee, it's not as hard as you figure out how much does the coffee cost, how much does it cost to produce it, how much does it cost to sell it, and then you do an analysis and where are your best stores and how do you improve sales and margins. And it's not necessarily, as you would say, rocket science, but there's not that. I'm sure there's many variables in running a coffee. Any business, there's variables, but I think that the mining business is tremendously unpredictable because the price is always changing. Remember, if you're selling coffee, generally the coffee price isn't going to swing so much, and you can have ways of hedging and they have that too in gold mining. But in most cases, when you're selling clothes or whatever it is you're selling, you don't really have to worry about these wild swings in the prices. I mean, imagine the silver miners. It must be even more difficult. You plan for the year on a certain price per ounce. You figure out what your cost might be, your average all-in sustaining cost for silver. And let's say at the beginning of 2018, they thought that price would be $17 or $18. They expand on that basis, and then the average price is like $15. Well, now you're totally hosed. even if you're well managed. All right, so what these two want to do, and this is I think the most important thing here, is they want to sell up to 1.5 billion in assets over the next 2 years to optimize gold production at a sustainable and steady level state of 6 to 7 million ounces. Let's think about that. What assets are they going to sell? They're going to sell ones that produce gold that have a higher cost per ounce. All right? Who the hell is going to buy that? Well, if someone's going to buy it, they're going to buy it at a lower price, because when you sell assets, that's like when you're eating a meal and you're eating it and it's not very good, and you say, this sucks, want it? Want some? Like, why would you want that after you've already said, this is what I don't like? Now, it may be, you're eating something that's not to your taste, and maybe someone else, oh, I don't like lasagna. Oh, want some? I know you like lasagna. But that's not what the case is here. When you signal that you're going to sell $1.5 billion worth of assets, you're basically saying we can't make them work, and we're the big bad Newmont and Gold Corp. Who's going to make it work? Barrick, maybe. Maybe they sell it to Barrick. Maybe Barrick just needs to get back to the number one position by picking up the scraps that Newmont and Gold Corp don't want. Now, what might more likely happen is, while they're selling them, Newmont and Gold Corp, they're not going to invest heavily in those assets. They'll probably slow down in production. That would mean a new mine's going to have to come in, put more money into it, and why would they do that unless the price of gold rises? So we may lose some gold productive capacity as a result of this merger. Also, what else did I see? Yeah, I saw in the Newmont mining that next year their guidance is for 5.2 million ounces, which is a slight increase. But then 2020, 4.9 million. And then they said longer term production is expected to remain stable at between 4.4 and 4.9 through 2023. I'm sorry, that's not stable. Dropping from 5.2 to the low end of 4.4 to 4.9 from 2020 to 2023. That means from 2020 to 2023, 4 years, they're at best going to be averaging 4.8 million ounces versus 5.2. Now that's significant because instead of 5.2, they're off 8% at a minimum each year going forward, and they're one of the larger ones. And then, of course, it's cumulative because each year you produce 400,000 fewer ounces a year. That could have an impact. Now, who knows how Barrick is going to do. Now, also, none of these companies are heavily engaged or at all, I don't believe. They're involved in Africa and Ghana, but not in South Africa. South African mines still produce a lot of gold, but I've seen their average costs are in the 1,700, all-in sustaining costs, 1,700, 1,800 an ounce, and at some point they'll just mothball those because it's just not going to be worth holding on to those mines. All right, I think that's it. I'll get your thoughts on these mergers here, but this now means that the first, second, and fourth largest mining companies have now engaged themselves in a merger, which is a pretty big deal. Largest? Just want to get. I forgot the name of the third largest gold mining company. Let's see what we got here. There goes the dog. Anglo Gold Ashanti. Now that is one that has South African, so that's going to be a big hit. That is the one that's in South Africa. And then you got Kinross Gold as well. But Anglo Gold Ashanti is has a lot of, I believe, South African mines. All right, let's see what you guys are saying over in the comments section. All right, first, let me give you the Patreon pitch now so I can focus exclusively on your comments going forward. So, I'm on the prowl. I don't have any advertising on this channel, so you don't hear, I have the mugs, which I haven't even talked about tonight. But I don't have Google AdSense on here, so you don't have to click through ads here. But I am pushing the Patreon, and I've got 20 loyal patrons. They're very pleased. And we have a bunch of levels. We have the proletariat level, it's just $2. And if you're at the proletariat level, you get working class pride in supporting Smaulgld. You get self-satisfaction in promoting a worthy social justice cause. And you get to interact with other virtue signaling Smaulgld proles on Patreon. Now, if you want to move up to the bourgeoisie level of $5 or more, you can assuage your guilt for trampling on the rights of the working class. You can help prevent an uprising of the proles by donating to proletariat YouTube creators like myself. Remember, there's a lot of very bourgeoisie YouTube channels that have hundreds of patrons. I'm definitely a prole with just 20 patrons. And then you can maintain, just for $5 a month, your smug moral superiority among your capitalist pig friends by supporting a lesser-known avant-garde YouTube creator like Smaulgld. Now, if you really want to move up, we've created a new level of patronage. That is the smug bourgeoisie level. That is $10 a month, and you get to keep ahead of the Joneses. You step up your bourgeoisie giving without having to join a club. Now, we've got a couple of clubs. I'm going to let you know about them. Oh, by the way, don't fall for it. There are counterfeit mugs out there, Smaulgld mugs being called hyper classic mugs. As you can see, they are cheap Australian knockoffs by the villain Roger Henley. And he has a YouTube channel, and he does some very good work debunking a lot of the truther channels. But he's decided to cash in and sell counterfeit Smaulgld mugs on the understanding that somehow they're high-tech and that they're attractive to kangaroos. Don't fall for it. Buy only Smaulgld Classic and Super Classic mugs. Now, the easiest way to get yourself a Smaulgld mug is to join the Smug Mug Club. And for $25 a month, we've got 2 people. We used to have 3 in the Smaulgld Mug Club. You receive a free Smaulgld Classic mug upon joining. And you know when you're in the Smug Mug Club that you're donating more than anyone else. Now, there's some higher levels of patronage even than the Smug Mug Club. There is the Super Smug Club, and that'll cost you $50 a month, and you'll receive a free Smaulgld Classic and Super Classic mug upon joining, and you will be the smuggest of them all. And you will know you are donating more than all others unless you join the Smaulgld Social Justice Winner Circle. Now, how do you become a member of the Smaulgld Social Justice Winner Circle? Well, you just donate $50,000 a month, and you will be contributing to eliminating wealth inequality. Or you can simply donate a spare house. And that indeed is the pitch for the Smaulgld patronage. I hope to pick up at least 2 or 3 this evening. Based on that pitch, you can join as any of the different tiers. They are all appreciated. Now, let's get to our comments. Let's see what we got. Last night I was listening, and I rarely go back and listen to, who wants to hear themselves talk? You just spoke for an hour. Who wants to listen to yourself for another period of time? But I went back and listened, and I'm going to try not to do it tonight. As I was looking at the comments, I was saying, let's see. I was like, that would annoy me if I was listening to that. So I am going to go over there now, and let's see. All right. Oh, I know what we're going to do. After I gave you that pitch, it would not be good marketing to tell you or ask you or give you the entreaty to become a Smaulgld patron and not provide you with a convenient way of doing so. So here is a link, and now you know where to go, and you can figure out which patronage level you wish. The house, if you wish to donate the spare house, please contact me, smaulgld@gmail.com, and we can arrange for title to be transferred. And you will get a certificate saying how you helped eliminate wealth inequality amongst YouTube patrons, creators at least. Okay. Let's see. Live chat. All right. We got Ace here. Now, I know we've got more. I'm confused here. Let's see. Live chat, top chat. We're start. Oh, here we go. Okay. I want to get back to the beginning. Okay. You guys are talking about China. I guess you guys are just listening for the first 15 minutes because I don't see many. I see a lot of comments, but I don't see any until I started talking about China. Ace. Okay, let's see. John Cooper says Europe will collapse first. We have time. Okay, we've talked about that. There's debt situations all over the world are not good. China's debt situation is untenable. Europe's situation, probably the same. United States unfunded liabilities, not good. A says probably not, but it'll be close. Europeans are in worse financial shape, but they're not as crazy as Americans. I don't know what that means. And he says China might collapse first also. Yep. Let's see. I said it again. I got to stop that let's see stuff. Womp, womp, no sound. You are back. Yes, okay. Ann Holloman, gold mining merger. I hope I didn't miss that. No, you didn't. You joined well before the gold mining merger. Mate, zinc is the future. Yeah, copper too. Copper is so useful. We could not lead our lives without copper. Copper conducts electricity. There is a good TV show about a wall, 1958, tracked down the end of the world, says Ace. I highly recommend it. All right, we'll check that one out. Pablo Pina, been a lot of gold mining mergers. This latest one is a big one. Yes, it creates the largest gold mining company in the world. Okay, Ann says, I wonder if it's positive for price. Probably not. Actually, probably could be. Maybe. Kind of. Because one of the things I mentioned about gold mining, a lot of people think there's some type of instant readjustment of the price of gold or silver if the cost of mining goes below the price. Goes above the prices of gold or silver. So if the price of gold or silver goes below the cost of mining, many people think, oh, that's it, we're done, we're not going to mine anymore, and that will immediately pull back a lot of supply from the market. There's two problems with that analysis. First of all, that's not what happens. As we've seen, South Africa mine, they continue to mine. The reason they continue to mine, they have to stay in business, so they have to actually produce some revenue, even if it's at a loss, to pay their debt. So they don't just stop mining. They may eventually, but they don't stop right away. The second thing is the world isn't necessarily counting on each last ounce of gold or silver that gets mined in a given year. Remember, there's stockpiles. And gold and silver mining has increased over the last 15 years. So they can handle a year, 6 months, 18 months, 12 months, whatever, of declining production that happens or may happen as a result, it doesn't necessarily have to happen, as a result of the decline in price of gold or silver. So it would really, for order for it to be almost a slam dunk, as many people think, you'd have to have sustained, and we may see it in the next few years, sustained declines in mining production and effectively knocking off 20% a year. Now, we saw the projections for Newmont was only a 7 to 8% projected decline over the next few years, the next 4 years, and maybe it gets even lower after that. But remember, they've had increased mining for the last 10 years. So, yes, of course, if there is decreased mining for a sustained period of time and demand is still there, and assuming higher prices don't lead to increased production, well, then clearly you're going to have higher prices. But it's not a slam dunk. It could be that demand levels off even as mining goes down a bit because there's enough stocks outstanding. So generally, you would think that as mining slows down and demand continues to rise over time, that should impact the supply-demand dynamic and lead to higher prices. Yes, how far can we kick the can down the road says DW. Yeah, how far can you? Silver is the working person's metal, says Ace One. Yes, that's right. That was the Silver Democrats. I have to go through that story, the Silver Democrats, and how Kennedy and Johnson tag teamed that one and knocked it out of the Democrats' platform. Basically, Kennedy helped eliminate the silver certificate, and Johnson finally just took the silver out of the coins. Kennedy said that silver serves no monetary purpose other than the minting of coins. And Johnson figured, now screw that. They're not even good for coins. So they did not believe in the bimetallic standard like gold was. It was still part of the monetary system through 1971. But through 1968, although they announced in 1965, silver was part of the U.S. monetary system because the coins had been silver, and you can redeem, get silver certificates, you can go and get a Morgan or a Peace silver dollar, and they got rid of that. All right. Zipper Fixer, I love Moronica. Uh-oh, we got a moron here. I hope Bernie runs, because that will be a lot of fun.
The 1% in this country got all the wealth, and we're going to take that wealth from them, and we're going to give it to Elizabeth. No, we're going to give everybody the free health care and the free education, and then I'm going to give away my house to Smaulgld.
All right. Let's see. Double the money supply. Buy your mugs here, says Jamie B. Yes, if you are interested in buying a Smaulgld mug, I suggest you go, and I'll make it easy. Go to smaulgld.com, and you can get your classic and super classic mug. I will make a trip tomorrow. Mañana por la mañana. Tomorrow morning. Domattina, come si dice in Italiano. I will go tomorrow morning to l'ufficio postale, the post office, and deliver your Smaulgld classic or super classic mug. Priority shipping, 2-day shipping, with a note from Smaulgld. Any of the other mugs, the Smaulgld beer mug or the Smaulgld beer stein or any of the other Smaulgld mugs, like the travel mug, like this one right here, you got to order those from the Smaulgld store. And I would be remiss if I did not give you the link for that. Here's the Smaulgld beer mug link, and that should get you into the store, and then you can order your Smaulgld mugs and merchandise. There's hats, a whole bunch of stuff. But there's your Smaulgld mug shot, and I would be also remiss if I did not show you the Smaulgld mug shot glass. Let's see what that is. A lot of people asked for that. No one bought. I'm very surprised no one has bought a shot glass. If you want to be a cheapskate and buy something, that's the one to buy. I think that's only a few dollars. If you really want to splurge and have the best beer mug, 22 ounce on the market, mugs are real wealth. There you go. The Smaulgld mugshot of the Smaulgld beer stein. That is more than super classic. That is a beer stein. All right. Let's see. Let's see again. Let's see. Don't say that anymore, Smaulgld. All right. DW. All right. So what will happen? If you see high inflation, it's time to buy real stuff. Actually, mate, it's time to buy it before you see it. Remember, when there is inflation, you won't have the money to buy it. Best move some savings into gold and silver, says DW. Anyone catch Salivate Metal on Silver Doctors? Very good interview. Like to express a multitude of gratitude to everyone who listened. Very nice interview. All right, let's see. Shocking facts. Jack AG. The number of government reports numbers then changes the numbers years later, messing with the economy in that day and time. Okay. Ace, gold is too valuable to trade for food. DW, Smaulgld in mugs. All right, what else do we got here? Jack AG at DW, solid gold, Smaulgld mug. That would be good. Solid gold, Smaulgld mug. Jack AG, anyone here of mining stocks? I'm trying to invest in Keith Neumeyer's new merger, FF on the chart. I don't know what that is. I think you mean First Mining. That's an interesting group of companies, but I think he bought them not to develop them. So they're just like assets supposedly. I don't know. You have to go and look at the prospectus and the registration statement. But I believe they're all in operation. They're not in operation, and they just have some type of reserves. And I think he bought them so that he could sell them in maybe an environment like this where large mining companies with more resources may want to develop them. So I don't know anything more about it than that. Interesting to know how much corporate debt they have. Yes, I didn't do a full analysis of those. That's DW Ace 1. That's why we do need Smaulgld. Someone who will see both sides and get closer to the truth. That is what I try to do. Yes. Oh man, crystal ball predictions. I think not knowing is more exciting, says Jack AG. Greetings, peeps. Philip Quinn is here from California. But you have to go back. You missed a lot. Ace message retracted. All right. Mate, you don't buy stuff with gold. Well, that is definitely true. And you don't buy stuff with silver either. Currency is the only thing that matters at this time to buy stuff. That is correct. Do you compare copper on the debt clock? Does it matter any more than gold? I don't know why people pay so much attention to that debt clock. But I mean, I like to pay attention to it for just keeping track of the amount of debt. But all the other numbers on there don't make much sense. All right. Quinn. Can anybody else hear Lewis's synapse is firing? His brain is so powerful. I don't know about that. Uh-oh, we got a moron here. Lewis, DW. Do you see the yellow vest making any impact on cash withdrawals from the bank? I discussed this last night. You might have missed it. I think it's a stupid idea for the yellow vest to announce in advance that they're going to take money out of the banks because the banks are in control of your money. So that's like saying, I'm going to come and rob your house tomorrow. You say, okay, I'll be outside on the front porch with a shotgun. So if you're going to do a bank run, you don't say you're going to do a bank run. They know you're coming. They'll put in things in place. Will limit your withdrawals, and you won't get it. And the other problem with saying you're going to do it, who does that benefit? Nobody. Remember, the best time to take your money out of the bank is before the bank run. If you agree with everybody else that we know they don't have enough cash to give us, so why don't we all go screw ourselves and ask for all of it at once so none of us get any of it? I'm not sure that the people running that have thought that one through. But then again, I don't run protests, so I don't know if that makes any sense. The only way it would work, and I doubt they've done this, and I discussed this last night, is if they already have an alternative means of transacting amongst themselves and that they don't need their cash. Which I doubt. They wouldn't be protesting if they're all independently wealthy and had set up some type of Gulch where they're just transacting in all types of created currencies, cryptocurrencies, silver, gold, barter. I don't think that's where they are. I think they're basically people who are struggling to get by, don't like to see the gas taxes and some of the other things going on in France. I don't think everyone going to the bank and trying to get their money out and causing the banks to collapse is going to help them. It's just going to impoverish them. Now, having said that, it's good to bring down the banks after you got your money out. Not to cause you to lose all your money. That's like setting your house on fire. All right, let's see what else we got here. Central banks simply print to recapitalize. Yes, or they do what India did, which was amazing. They just say you got to turn all your cash into the bank and get new notes. Oh, you don't have a bank account? Well, we don't have any cash for you, but if you put your cash in here, we'll give you a bank account. Guess what happens then? They just got free deposits, and now they can fractional reserve off of those deposits. What else do we got? That's it. Oh no, it's not it. My goodness. We got a lot more. By the way, Small, says Jack AJ, I heard your lecture on confiscating silver. Very good. I made a big mistake by buying mostly bars from non-government minted firms. Did I talk? I don't think I talked about, well, you're mixing two things. The confiscating silver I was talking about, I believe, the one I did on the Great Silver Confiscation Act of 1934 that that Roosevelt put in by executive order, but it wasn't really to confiscate silver from the people. It was really so they can get enough silver to mint coins from, because there had been a coin shortage. So it's a bit different story there. But I don't know why you say you made a mistake buying bars from non-government minted firms. Bernie's not wealthy? How many millions is he and his corrupt wife worth?
Now she works at a university, so she's very smart. But she didn't know how to run the university.
Beer mugs. Need a mug. Do you hand... no need for a mug, but do you hand pour silver? I would love to learn how to do that, because I don't want to rely on somebody, because I'd love to have Smaulgld silver coins. Many people have asked for them. I'm sure I can at least sell 20 of them. But even that, and people said they'd pay a premium for them, so I would bet they'd cost me $30, $40 to produce. But I don't want to do that. I'd love to get the technology, or whatever you have to do. I've seen videos on it, but I still have to go out and find some silver and do it. It's a lot of work. If I can only find a way to figure out how to get someone to do it in advance, then we'll have Smaulgld silver. But I haven't found anyone able to do it. Okay, Jack says, anyone here buy a 100-ounce bar? I've always heard it's hard to sell, yet haven't had that problem. I've called about 3 places to inquire. They offered me close to spot, give or take $100 for non-government mint. Okay, so that's not a problem. It's just hard to transact. Yes, salivate metal, says Jack. I got a kilo coin from the Perth Mint, says Donald Putnam. But yeah, but that's a government mint. Mate, I only buy tonnage off of Rob Curvy. Sark. What else? Love how heavy a kilo coin is in your hand. I would love to hold one of the gold kilos. I think they make those in Perth Mint. Carl Joseph Tamarco. I'm late tonight, but not too late to remind you all to get your Smaulgld mug for your favorite winter beverage. Well, thank you for that pitch there, Carl Joseph DeMarco. Tutte le persone abbiano... What does that say? Oh, nothing. All right, let's see. One day I'm going to do the entire podcast as Seamus McGee. Another time I'll do it as Valley Lowe, the English guy. Another time I'll do it entirely in Italian. Maybe in Swedish. We'll do it in all different languages. Most are not paying attention anyway in English. I might as well just try in some other languages. Let's see. Carl Joseph DeMarco, I just got back inside and putting hot cocoa in my Smaulgld mug. Pablo Pena says, I have tea in mine, Carl. I love silver, gold, and also platinum. Even picked up some nice copper, says Donald Putnam. But Donald, you know, the hardest thing about copper, you can never, ever get your money back on copper unless copper just does an explosion. Because the cost of minting those copper rounds, if you ever look at them on the different websites, ridiculously priced. The best way to get copper, but it's going to take you a long time. You have to go and get the pre-1982 pennies and stack them. I don't know who does that. Real wealth, says Pablo. That's right. Carl Joseph DeMarco, bank runs. What is this, last night's show? Exactly. Pablo Pena asked the question again. We covered this last night, and I know Pablo was here last night. Better for the yellow vest to pay off debt, which is the asset the banks can't fractionally reserve, since the debt with interest is the asset of the bank collecting the interest. That's very smart, William Birkin wrote. Exactly. Why owe money to the banks? Yeah, that makes much more sense than doing a bank run where everybody ensures that they don't get their cash. Well, make that mug in silver and I'd get one. Yeah, I would too, but I think even having a silver mug make is even more expensive. I mean, you'd have to do it in sterling, otherwise it wouldn't be worth it. I mean, you can get a silver-plated mug, it would still be expensive. All right, let's see, what else have we got here? I don't know. You should sell food buckets to complement your mugs. Well, you know what, Ace? I do, actually, on the Smaulgld site. By the way, if anyone's interested in buying gold or silver, that's on that. You can help the site out that way. We have affiliate links from Golden Eagle Coin, SD Bullion, Money Metals Exchange, and we do have emergency food links and banners on the Smaulgld site. You can buy those boxes of the storable food with you got to add the water to it. There's coffee on them to buy. There's a lot of stuff you can buy through the Smaulgld affiliates. So yes, If you don't want to become a patron, although I think you should, you can also help the site out by purchasing things you would otherwise purchase, or just buy them through the Smaulgld affiliate links. 100-ounce bars. Okay, Jack says, I made a mistake buying bars because they're difficult to transact in a bad situation. Ah, I see. Well, I wouldn't worry about confiscation of, I mean, what do I know? But the amount of silver value that's out there in the form in people's hands is insignificant. Remember, go back and do a Google search. I did a blog post with charts and a YouTube called, I think it's called 3 Silver Stockpiles. There's so much silver. If the government was interested and just absolutely needed silver, it would just go after Hecla mining, right? That'd be one place to go. It could go to the COMEX vaults that are in the United States. There's 300 million ounces there. I don't think they're going to go around trying to pick off a silver eagle or two here or there. So I wouldn't worry about that. But you're right. If you want to transact a 100-ounce bar, that's a problem. You got to lug it around. You got to get change. But if all you want to do is make money on the price rise of silver, it's just one bar, it's sold. You don't have to pick through coin. I don't know. I mean, if you want to trade on the price of silver, though, you just buy the SLV. You know, a lot of people say, well, there's no silver there, it's paper silver. But if you're trying to make paper profits, that's a lot easier than buying 300-ounce bars and then having to lug them and sell them and lose on the commission on both sides. You pay a premium, then you don't get the premium back. Whereas if you bought that equivalent amount in SLV, you could just take your profit whenever the price of silver goes higher. So actually, you're right. It would make more sense if you want the silver to use as a currency, then you would buy little ones. But then when you do that, you pay an even higher premium per ounce. You can't win either way. You just have to be rich. You have to own it. You have to own a silver mine or a gold mine. Pablo says, do copper Smaulgld coins. Well, that's not a bad idea. You know, I saw the other day a gold-plated copper coin. It doesn't cost anything to gold plate because you use very little gold. That might be the way to go. Yeah, I'm not sure. All right, silver is silver. Pretty sure my coin shop guy would take them and not hose me too badly. Emily York is here, late to class. Go back, please, and listen to the earlier parts. High Voltage, where can I buy the mugs? Smaulgld.com. I'll send it out to you for you tomorrow, Mr. Voltage. Roger Henley. Uh-oh. Now, you saw my warning earlier in the show about Roger, the villainous Australian, selling knockoff hyper-classic Smaulgld mugs. And here he is. Hyper-classic mugs are the future of beverage consumption. Fact, period. I disagree strongly, Mr. Hendy. I don't care how cute those robots are. So, no issue. Verify metals now in CoinShop. Okay. DW, thanks, Lewis. I like your balanced view. Sorry I missed last night's show, but thanks for answering my question. Pablo Pina, Hyper Classic mugs in the works with providing cups to Starbucks. That's a sellout, Pablo. I knew that Roger was a villain. SD Bullion, great company. Carl Joseph DeMarco. You can pick up missed shows later on YouTube. I usually have to do that later at night or the next morning with a delicious cup of coffee in my attractive Smaulgld mug that just reeks of success. All right. Canada has never had metals confiscation. Coffee late at night, says Ann Holloman. LOL, says Pablo. Will keep you awake. Coffee in the morning, Ann Holloman. Hot cider at night. Donald Putnam says, I'm about to invest in more mining stocks. Okay, well, if you had had Gold Corp, you would have made a 17% premium. But if you had had Newmont Mining, I think you lost 5 or 6% today. That generally happens in a merger. Obviously, the company that's being acquired will go higher, and then the company that's buying it, unless they actually believe in the Synergy story, and that's something we talked about earlier, the acquiring company will lose value. Jack AG, thanks, Smaulgld, for answering my questions. No hay quejas, como se dice en español. Okay, Pablo. ¿Qué haces? All right, what else have we got here? Looks like buonanotte per tutti qua. All right, looks like that's it for everybody here. I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. And special thanks to those who do join each and every evening or catch up the next day. And thank you to the patrons, and thank you to those I also do get, and I don't call them out as often as I should, some very generous one-time donations. So thank you very much for that indeed. And we will see you all tomorrow. Good night. Buonanotte.